I'm going to tell y'all right now, all of these wonderful people would not be here without Patreon supporters like you. If you enjoy credible news, reviews, and commentary on UFOs and UAPs 5 days a week, you want to support this show. What's your name? Marty. Marty, look how easy this is, Marty. Pick up your phone. Boom! You're a Patreon member. I mean, look, it's so easy. You just click the link, which is right here. Just for $1 a month, you can support this show. Just fill out the information and pledge what's comfortable for you. It could be $1, $5, $10, or who knows. Just support. Hello, good morning, good evening, good day, good afternoon, and aloha. Welcome back to another episode of the Unidentified Celebrity Review, your home for credible news, reviews, and commentary on everything UAP, UFO, sometimes other things. Welcome back, you guys. I want to say hello before we get started to everyone that I can who's in the chat right here. Hello, everybody. I just tweeted out that we're going live, so if you guys want to go to my Twitter, I think I pinned it. You guys want to retweet it, share with everybody that we're going on. We're talking to Jazz Shaw. We've got my buddy here, Jake Matthews. We're going to bring them on in a moment. Of course, Rather Be Squidding is here. Jane can't be here today because she's a mom. She's working on a play, and it's the most adorable excuse ever. I mean, how can I not give her the week off? It's amazing. So let's say hello. Sparky Lady, what's shaking? Greg O'Brien, Mark D, Case for Infinity, Fifi Barbora. Welcome, you guys. John Russell's in the house. Hello, John. Event Tide, Jenna Bernard, Andrew Hillier, Dimensions Baby, Dimensional Babe. Elizondo, grumpy as ASFU today. Oh, man. Oh, boy. Drama on Twitter, UFO Twitter as usual. Mark D, what's shaking? Let's see here. Am I missing anybody? There's Aaron Desario. Hello, sir. Swink McLeod, Catherine Splashington. You guys, it's going to be a fun show. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Preston with Shakin', Toby, Mark D, Max. I don't want to miss anybody, but we got to get started with the show. I love you all. Thank you all so much for being here. Pale Moon. Now that I become death, there you are. Jesse Peak, what's shaking? All right. Got to pay some bills. Want to say thank you to DOS Tapes. They provide all of the tunes you hear on the show. Bandcamp link is in the description below, so go check them out if you're digging the music. I want to say, of course, the show will be available on podcasts, iTunes, as soon as the show is over. So go and download it. Do yourself a favor. If you're listening to on the road or at home while you're cleaning, whatever, leave us a rate review. It goes a long way. Truly appreciate it. Also, check out our Patreon. You saw the commercial at the beginning of the show. It's a great way to support the show for as little as $1 a month. You can help support us. We are a public access channel. We're supported by viewers like you, so truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. And by the way, if you can't support $1 or financially through super chats or anything like that, don't worry about it, baby. We got you. No paywall. There's no paywall here, man. Don't worry about it. Everything's free. The whole thing, the whole shebang. So go enjoy the big phone home. 1 and 2. Day 1 and 3 are here posted if you want to go back and check those out. And day 2's on Michael's channel because we hosted on his channel. Singularity Lab. Go check it out. All right. What else? Moderators, thank you. Thank you for being here. If you can, do me a favor. Like, share, subscribe to the show. It goes a very long way to keep us growing. We're so close to 9,000 subscribers. We're like 8 away. It's insane. So if you haven't subscribed yet, smash that subscribe button. Hit the like button. Ring the bell. That way you're notified anytime we go live and when our schedule changes in mid-April. If you hadn't heard, we're going down to one show a week. I think it's going to be Thursdays. Haven't decided yet. We'll figure it out. We're so close to finalizing that part of it. As soon as I get the schedule, of course, I'll share it with you guys. But don't sweat it. Don't be scared. Sometimes news is going to break. And guess what? When it does, if it's big, if it needs to be talked about, we'll go live then too. Don't worry about it. I don't think it'll be just one show a week, even though I say that. I don't know. Anyway, let's bring in our friends, shall we? Our co-hosts. Rather Be Squidding. How are you, sir?
Luke. Doing well. Yourself?
Yeah? Not too bad. Not too bad.
Been a busy week over here, but yeah.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Yeah, I'll get into it in a second. Let's bring in my friend here. One of my best friends. Mr. Jake Matthews.
Got
Hopefully
the
he's not
moves.
saying something because his mic looks muted. But I like his
What's
moves.
up, man?
What's shaking? And
The
in case
easiest
you
way
guys
to
are
get
like,
me excited is this song, seeing your face, seeing all these people who I don't know who for some reason are okay with me being back. It just gets me excited.
some
It
people
gets me
didn't like you.
That's fine.
The
Most
last
people
time you were on,
most people don't.
Your harsh religious stance was like, geez, man, like, ugh. I was just like, hey, dude, people have different experiences with that. You know, it doesn't, for some people, it just doesn't jive. And what can I say?
Different perspectives are good to listen to.
Definitely. And I thought they were great, challenging questions. I thought it was some of the most interesting part of our show. Anyway, if you guys don't know who Jake is, say hello to Jake Matthews. He's I first met him through acting. I know he probably hates that because he doesn't want to be known as an actor, even though he's a
I love it's my favorite. Salt of the earth people. They are good people. They're honest. Back in the day when we were hunting down woolly mammoths,
yeah,
they were just like guys and dolls. Grab a spear and shoot the mammoth.
Oh, you see, there you go. So
they're
that's
necessary people in society. I can't think of any more necessary. It's doctors.
This guy was on a CBS show that had one full season. He added to the entertainment world.
I played the brown guy.
You played the brown guy. Yeah. But you were a good brown guy.
It was not bad.
Yeah. I like, they always dress you well in those kind of like crime procedurals. But Jake is also a sailor. He's also
a pilot.
An avid hunter. He's a pilot. He's running for a congressional seat in Portland.
Just got confirmed last night. I'm on the ballot.
Wow.
Oregon's 4th district. Yeah.
I hope you have a positive viewpoint on UAPs and UFOs going in if you get elected into Congress. If you'd like, we'd love to head up that aspect of your campaign.
For sure.
If it ever comes up.
Absolutely.
But speaking of political, well, we weren't really speaking of political writers, but we have our friend, our lovely and very loud supporter, one of the first mainstream supporters of the Big Phone Home, a man that is absolutely near and dear to my heart. He's on vacation this week. He's doing what he loves, which is talking to folks like us. I saw him the other night on that One Time I Was Abducted show, and it was so much fun. It was so much fun to watch you do butt stuff. I like seeing that side of you. And so we got the great Jazz Shaw. Jazz, how you doing, sir?
I'm great. Thanks for reminding me that I did butt stuff for a second time, which my bosses have had all sorts of interesting questions about. Of course, I don't want to be here with Jake. Nobody likes Jake. He's a terrible person. But I'm kidding, of course. No, I'm pleased to be on. I haven't been on in a while, and I love doing the show. And we got to keep up the whole dolphin thing. Everybody, check out the merch. The merch. Look
link is down below.
Just click on the link. Trust me, when it turns out to be dolphins, you're going to be glad you were here first.
This is true, man. If it does turn out to be dolphins, holy cow. I mean, we should make a crown out of pure gold and place it upon your head and crown you the emperor because you called it big time. Big time.
It's probably aliens, but whatever. It'll work.
So John Greenwald's in the house, and this is going to be an interesting discussion because you wrote an article in the debrief. And by the way, Jazz's link is in the description. You can find all his articles that he puts on Twitter and through his. Do you have a website, Jazz, where you post everything? No. Okay. Yeah.
I'm a virtual guest. I don't have my own show or anything. I write articles at various places. So
what you should do is just repost other people's show on your channel and make your own channel out of other people's shows.
Yeah, but then I would have to work like you do, and that I see how much goes into what you guys do to try to put on multiple shows per week or even one show per week.
Yeah.
Look at that. When I have a full-time job writing for one network, and I do other work for like 2 other networks. And if I try to do a regular show, I would walk away and just like smash my computer because I don't have time for that crap. I'm trying to get to my retirement, and so no, I love being a guest, so
well,
that's
we
all
love
I want to
having
do.
you as a guest, sir. Christine Gomez in the house with a $5 donation says, "Alien dolphins rule the oceans. Saludos a todos." Welcome, my lady. Glad you're here.
Love to see Christina here. By the way,
Always.
the $50 shot challenge is on. Any $50 donation to the channel, I will do a shot on camera. So
yeah,
just
look at Jake's face. He's like, this is all so new to him. He's like, just catching up, and I love it.
This has been going on for a long time
long time. This is the only guy that takes shots for $50 on my show. He's the only person I let drink on my show. He's the only person that I let yell at me on my show. He's got a pass. He's got a.
I don't think there's a letting Jazz do anything.
Yeah, no, we don't let Jazz do anything. Yeah,
at my age, I'm sorry, guys. I'm old enough to be your grandfather. I do what I'm gonna do. I try to do the best I can.
Love you for it.
So. We love you. Yeah. Okay, so is FOIA broken, Jazz Shaw?
Fundamentally, at the deepest levels, yes. It doesn't mean it doesn't work. There's a lot of cases where FOIA works great, and a lot of people, if they're willing to put the work in and learn how the system actually functions and submit questions to the government correctly, there's a lot of people in FOIA that will really do their best. They do a good job. They try to go, if you have a question, for people that don't know FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, you can go and ask the government, I would like to see documents related to whatever you want to know about. Are the bald eagles dying? Whatever. You can ask questions about anything. But it's a complicated system, and you have to ask questions correctly and to the right agencies in order to get good results. But if you do that, if you take the time to learn how to do it, and trust me, I had horrible experiences initially because I had no idea how the system worked. You can ask about pretty much anything. And if there are government documents that exist and they don't fall into one of 9 exemption categories because it's sensitive material, they have to give you the documents. But it's a complicated system. You have to know how to ask the questions. Right. You have to know who you're asking, how to phrase the question, and how to really pierce down, because they have a lot of outs to be like, well, your question doesn't make any sense to us, and we don't know. So you get an answer that says, oh, no documents, sorry. So it's complicated. But now that I've said that much, and I have had recent experiences, I was talking offline with Luis. I have an article coming out next week at the Debrief on a investigation that I've had going on for almost 4 months now with I don't even remember how many FOIA requests and different searches, all these things. And I found FOIA people that were really responsive and really helpful. They had nothing to help me, but they actually took the time to go, but we know of these other resources. You go check these. And I found some great stuff. So yeah, there are people in the system that really do believe in it, and they try to help you. But we have an alarming number of cases that have shown up over the years, many of them recently, a lot of them to do with the UAP topic, UFOs, where it looks like not only were they not trying to be helpful, they were actually hiding things and going out of their way to thwart the whole system, which, by the way, is a felony. It's a federal law. The article that I think we're probably going to talk about has one that has nothing to do with UFOs, with the FBI, where I feel they've been caught red-handed, sitting there and absolutely lying to the public and to courts. And then they got caught, and then they started backpedaling. It's like, oh, well, wait a minute. We can get to that later. But the whole point of the article was that the FOIA system is sort of broken and was from its inception because the people handling this responsibility to follow the law and give citizens the documents they request work inside of agencies that many times have a vested interest in keeping things secret. And if they don't want those secrets to get out, and you take somebody responsible for keeping the secrets and saying, oh, well, now you're the FOIA officer and you have to respond to these requests, doesn't that seem like it's a bit of a contradiction in terms of, okay, we're going to put somebody who's been keeping this secret all this time and really believes in keeping it secret, but now you're going to have to give honest answers to the public. That's the problem we're running into. Excuse me. There's a number of agencies where we get answers all the time from people who are career officers who are supposed to, oh, we're going to respond to your FOIA request. But these are the same people who have spent decades going, oh my God, we can't let anybody know this, And it's not just UFO stuff, by the way. The article you're talking about, I was referencing one FBI thing. We'll get into that later. It had nothing to do with UFOs. But if they have a reason to keep something secret, why would you hand the responsibility of openness and transparency to somebody who's inside the agency that's responsible for keeping the secrets?
Right.
And that seems to be a huge problem. And I think I've dug up enough examples of places where they clearly were lying to everyone. And there are ways to get around that.
Well, you said it's a felony to, lie on FOIA requests. Has anyone ever been prosecuted for that?
Yes, they have. Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Do you know what were the circumstances in that?
Oh God, I have to go look it up. There were a few people that got caught with a fraud offense. I don't know if anybody's actually gone to jail, but people have lost their jobs.
Wow.
But it's really rare. It hardly ever happens. Because once again, you're asking questions of somebody, and they are almost the ultimate authority in like, well, what we're saying is true because we're the ones who have the information and we're responsible for that.
Yeah.
And whenever you're ready, we can jump into the article if you want, but the FBI they're some of the worst perpetrators, and it's usually not UFO stuff. And they've been caught just with their pants down on this, and there's somebody that's going to go to jail on a big FBI case, I believe. So.
Well, but we get into the article. I mean, what do you think? Are there any solutions? Like, how do we fix it? How do we get information that isn't sensitive to, sources and methods, and also, whatever the classification, top secret nation secrets that the public probably shouldn't know. But how do we get the things around the meat around that? What would be the best way, in your opinion, you think?
Well, I think I laid that out pretty well in the article. Obviously, there are things that should be kept secret.
Right.
If there's information out there that by revealing it to the American citizens who ask for it, it also goes out to the media, it goes out to the public, goes out to the entire world. The exceptions that are in FOIA are if it reveals private personal data of people. It's like if you were just somebody doing your job in the government, but you don't want your name and your face and your picture being out there. That's one exception.
Right.
If you have a job where you're handling sensitive data and the fact that the data got released could reveal how we acquired the data, who the people were involved that acquired the data that was sensitive, might include, international intrigue, things like that. You keep that secret. Sure. So you have to get around that part of it. But they keep a lot of stuff secret that doesn't seem to apply to any of those 9 categories they have of totally valid reasons why you would keep something secret from the public, even though they paid for the information. Yeah.
Jake, did you have a question yet? No. All right.
Well, I'm curious.
Go ahead,
on the FOIA documents, What about classified documents? Does FOIA get to declassification, or would classified documents kind of be out of FOIA scope?
Um, there is a subset in FOIA where if you submit a request, you're supposed to get a response that either says, no, we don't have anything, no documents found, or very often, and John Greenwald will, if he's in here, will tell you this more than anybody else, they'll go, oh, we have documents that are responsive, here you go. But it meets one of the 9 classification areas, and they just redact everything. And he's gotten entire pages that were black, except for like the name of the person it was sent to, the date, and like the word "the" or something, and everything else is blacked out, right? So, yeah, then you can challenge that. You can have a mandatory declassification review, which Greenwald is an expert at, and then they're supposed to go and they're forced to look at it and say, well, should this be classified? And once the review is done, if the reviewer says, well, no, that really shouldn't be classified, it might get declassified. Doesn't happen a lot, sadly, but it does happen sometimes. And John has been successful in that.
Who are the reviewers specifically? Who reviews who comes to that determination? Is that someone that's elected and put in there by, say, Congress, or is that just something that the office provides internally?
These are all people that are internal to the offices, but hypothetically, at least, and God, I wish we had John on the show, the people that are up at the next level, they're supposedly further removed from that process, and they can sit back with a less jaundiced eye and go, well, yeah, maybe that doesn't make sense to have that classified. That's the hope. But the hope doesn't always come true. I mean, I included in the article, we're talking about, a case where John had been chasing these NSA documents, and they had them actually out there online in their reading room, and they were entirely blacked out. And he did a mandatory declassification review request, and they didn't come back and go, no, we've checked it and definitely still needs to be classified. They came back and said to John Greenwald, we don't know where those documents are. We don't even have the unredacted versions. They're just gone. So they had in their reading room all these documents with all this blacked out stuff. It's like, well, I'd like a review and I'd like to see the unblacked out portion. And they came back and said, oh, we don't know where they went. They're gone. And I'm sorry, maybe that's possible, but that looks a little dodgy, doesn't it? It's like they're so good at keeping secrets, they kept it secret from themselves. That's a little crazy.
Is there any accountability for that? It seems like they have a responsibility to maintain and keep their records, right?
Nope. And that's why I suggested a couple of avenues where there could be accountability. And it wouldn't cost much. And I hope, offline, I was talking to Luis about this, with the stuff that came, I think we're going to talk about this later with Chris Mellon's latest article that he published. There is a huge, burdensome overclassification problem in the government. And there is a way around that if we can get the eyeballs that look at these things out of the individual departments who historically have been responsible for keeping these secrets and put the decision in somebody else's hands. It could be independent people, maybe even civilians, who can pass, the security clearance requirements, or we could just put it over in the hands of the Inspector General departments, because the Inspector Generals are independent by nature. Why don't we move the FOIA process over to the IGs? They could go and review that stuff and have a less jaundiced eye and go, yeah, that should be secret. There's really no reason for this to be secret. Maybe get a better result. Probably not a 100% bulletproof solution, but I really think that's a possibility. And I was going out and tweeting, and I know Luis saw this. I think this needs to be particularly tied in with the Chris Mellon article. a big focus of the next big phone home thing. We need to tear the veil off this and get the right people in charge who will not endanger national security, but also who will not be permanently embedded in, like, we're going to keep secrets because we don't want you to know, which is not a good enough answer.
That brings up a good point. So who do we target this message to sort of untangle this FOIA process and make things less classified, like what we're saying, but also double down with the Air Force as well? I know we could reach out to congressmen and senators when it comes to, putting pressure on the Air Force to declassify these things, and all the other branches of the military as well. But from the FOIA aspect, do we go to the same people to strengthen this process?
Absolutely. Because they are all allegedly, I'm going to use air quotes, following the FOIA law. Because that's how the FOIA law was set up. It was like, all of you agencies and offices and departments, you have to go appoint some FOIA officers and people to do these things. And here's what you're going to do. Tick, 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 right? Well, when the people that get put in charge of the tick, tick, ticks are in the office, and they might have, let's go back to that FBI case I mentioned about the Civil War gold, they might have a good reason to go like, well, we don't want to talk about that. You don't know for sure they're actually doing it. So I think the FOIA law could be amended, but only Congress can amend that law. And these aren't big changes to the law. They aren't big, expensive changes, that I proposed. You could just say the individual agencies and offices in the government, you don't have your own FOIA people that you appoint from your own ranks. Let's get some outside people, whether they're totally outside or they're inspector general people, and just say, now you're responsible for this. And all these agencies spend money to pay FOIA people. Well, you can save that money. Give that money to the IG office. And now you have money to pay some new people who are totally outside of the system, and we at least have a chance that they would do a better job of being honest. Because, well, we run into a lot of people in FOIA who are very honest, who do a good job, who try.
Can you request them when you make a new FOIA request?
Can you request what?
The people who tend to cooperate or are easier to work with.
Oh, no. You get one top point when you put in a FOIA request. And trust me, the last 3 months I've been putting in a ton of them. You request to a department at the lowest level. If you have no idea where you're going, you request to a government branch. And those are the hardest ones to get anything through. Like, I had to request a couple just to the United States Air Force, which is a gigantic behemoth. And then they give you stalling letters. No, I don't want to say stalling. They give you letters where you pass it down. Well, the entire Air Force doesn't know about this, but we'll pass it to this branch and then this branch till we get down. That's where Greenwald stuff is so important. To get the fastest response, you don't ask something of the entire government. You don't ask something of the entire military. Because when you send that in, they're going to be like, well, you're asking about something that happened in Ohio with a dog in 1975. It's going to take a while to find out who's in charge of that, right?
Right.
So, but if you have enough data when you do your inquiry, you don't just ask, oh, I'd like everything from the Air Force about blah, blah, blah. If you have documents that you're looking at, you have public reports that focus the question down to a certain incident that involved one particular airbase, one particular branch, whatever, you find the FOIA officer for that particular subset, which was what I was doing with the current ongoing investigation. Mostly done investigation. If you ask them, you get far more quickly to somebody who's like, oh yeah, these are the block of records that we have. If you want to know, and I think, again, go back to John Greenwald, if you start out at the very beginning, it's like, I'd like to know about UFOs. So you send a FOIA request to the entire United States government going, give me all the documents you have about UFOs.
Yeah.
That's a fool's errand. Okay. Right. But if you have a story about a UFO incident and there are reports about a place where one particular branch was investigating it, and you send a targeted FOIA request to that specific activity, referencing at this date or in this range of dates, I have reports from the media and things, you can drill down pretty quickly and it works a lot better. So FOIA is awkward if you don't take the time to learn how to use it. I don't want to take up your whole show. My first FOIA request was not to the federal government. It was to the New York State government. And I won't even go into all the details. But it was about some data that had come out and people were looking at. And I stupidly just sent a request to the state of New York. And I was like, I'd like all the data about these particular activities, these things that happened. And I got no response. I mean, I got a response saying no records available. And I kind of gave up and walked away because I was like, really? Because that's in the newspaper. I had not asked the right people. I hadn't asked the right agencies. So if you want to engage with the FOIA system, you need to do your part. You need to do your work, do your homework, ask the right groups, and get as much specificity, as you can, and frame it correctly. And if they're not deliberately trying to hide something, you got a good chance of getting an answer. If you do it wrong, then a lot of people send requests and they get an answer like, dude, we can't help you, or dudette,
Still the words
and you
right
walk away.
Specificity.
Yeah.
The more, specificity, details, and it sounds like practice too. That sounds like the three things to success. FOIA.
Oh yeah. You got to learn the system, and I think that's what John's been trying to teach everybody. It's like you could have a great question, and if you ask it wrong, and you don't realize you asked it wrong, you're going to get an answer that says, "Oh, no records, sorry," and then you shrug your shoulders and you walk away. How many people have done that when they had a great question and there were records, right? So, no, a lot of the burden is on us. But I think a lot of the burden, as I wrote in the article, is also on the government to make it a cleaner situation. Because at times they do, God, I don't want to use the phrase. I will insert the word apparently. They do apparently lie intentionally a lot of the time. Luis, if you send a request saying, I'd like to know how many car crashes there were in California this year involving electric vehicles. I'm just pulling this out of the air.
Yeah.
There's a place you can go and ask that. Nobody's going to fight you. Nobody's going to try to hide anything. There's somebody that has those figures. And if you do your FOIA request right correctly, you're going to get it.
Yeah.
If you go and ask something that they really don't want to talk about, well, you might not get a very good answer.
Well, that kind of leads into a question I had, and that is, is the FOIA request treated differently if it's an embarrassing FOIA request, something that embarrasses either the government or our security systems or our American exceptionalism? Like, if the FOIA request sort of challenges that authority, I feel like it's treated a lot differently than if I'm looking for statistics on car crashes with electric cars. Is that fair?
Oh, that's totally fair. I'm somebody who's dealt with Susan Goff for several years, and I can tell you the answers you get from the government depend on what you're asking.
Yeah.
It comes down to how highly motivated are they to either help you or thwart you, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, these are big questions that are at the base of this. The FBI thing I was referring to has nothing to do with UFOs, nothing whatsoever. The FBI went out and they dug a huge hole in the ground because there were some treasure hunters who had done years of research looking to find out what happened to a huge shipment of Civil War gold in the 1860s that went missing when it was being shipped from Ohio to the mint in Philadelphia, and it disappeared. And this father and son team thought they had found it, and they spent years doing it. But it was on public land. It was in public parkland. So they had to go request permission to go excavate. And they sent out, they had metallurgists that went out there, and they were like, yeah, there's a huge mass of dense metal here. So they sent the request in. Instead of getting a response from the Parks and Services people, like, yeah, you can or you can't dig, they got a response from the FBI. They said, don't worry, we're going to go excavate it. And the treasure hunting team was like, okay. So they all went out there, but they were forced to stay in their car far away from the site. And for an entire evening and into the morning, there was this parade of trucks and excavators and backhoes that were going back and forth up and down through this really remote area. A lot of neighbors reported seeing them going from early morning until after midnight, right? The next morning, the FBI came down and told the treasure hunters, oh, we finished the dig. Sorry, there's nothing there. Come on, take a look. They were never allowed to go up and watch it all happen.
Yeah.
They were brought up and they looked at an empty hole. And they were like, oh, sorry, I mean, you were off base. Those guys got really suspicious for obvious reasons. And they went to court and they sued the FBI. And they filed a FOIA request and said, we'd like all documents relating to this dig that happened on this specific date. And they got a response back saying, we have no documents responsive to your request.
Wow.
Even the Justice Department didn't buy that. They went and filed an appeal. The FBI then came back and said, wait, there may be documents, but they're not subject to FOIA. Those are restricted, which was a complete BS answer.
Yeah.
So it got dropped for a little while. They appealed again at a higher court, and the FBI came back and said, okay, you're right. We have 1,700 or 2,400 documents or whatever it was, and 27 videos. But it's going to take a long time to review them to see if they can be released. It's going to take years. Sorry.
Wow.
That's what they did with the FOIA process. And everybody that I've never heard anybody say there's any explanation other than the FBI went in there, dug a hole, and took the damn gold, you know,
Yeah.
And they have denied it every time. And now they're still sitting there going, well, okay, you're right. We have all these documents, but we have to review them to make sure there's no security problems. And it could take years before we can do that. That's where we are in that story right now. That is just such a classic example. What is the alternate explanation when they said initially, there's no documents? Oh, there's documents, but they're not subject to FOIA. Okay, we have documents, but we have to review them and we can't release them and it's going to take years. What's the alternate explanation, guys? Really? Yeah. I mean, this is just a case of bad actors, in my opinion.
That's such a bizarre story because, the government isn't too shy about, asset forfeiture and stealing treasure from people in, other treasure hunts. Do you think that there's anything else besides stolen treasure going on here? Or do you think that it really is just as simple as the FBI found a bunch of gold and doesn't want to tell anyone?
Rather, we might be talking about two different classifications of theft. If you're somebody that goes and off the coast of Florida and finds a shipwreck and you find a bunch of gold, there are laws in place that, depending where you are, they can go and take that stuff because you're in territorial waters, whatever, things like that. The case we're talking about with the FBI with the gold in Pennsylvania looks and smells to me a lot more like anybody who's familiar with the Iran-Contra scandal, where a lot of money suddenly disappeared and got shuffled off to other places to get something done that you couldn't get approved congressional funding to have done during Iran-Contra, and we're talking billions of dollars. go, if you haven't ever heard of Iran-Contra, I know I'm old, go look it up. There were people working for our government who went and made tons of money disappear. And it all got spent on other programs they had that they were doing down in Nicaragua that were never approved by the government. And they got their own private channel of funding by taking all the Iran-Contra money and spending it and giving it to drug dealers. It was a huge embarrassment. Well, okay, it was a huge embarrassment. It was a total scandal. Yeah. And a lot of people have forgotten about that already. So the FBI is part of that intelligence network. If you're the FBI and you got some things going on during these troubled times, would it perhaps be convenient to suddenly get your hands on 6 to 9 tons of gold bullion that there's no record of?
Yeah.
And maybe you've got something going in another part of the world. You could use that cash. I'm just saying, I'm not saying we know that. I'm just saying they've done it before.
Right.
Okay. And they have made money disappear before.
So a couple of things.
Seems suspicious.
Yeah, it does, that's at the very least it seems suspicious. Yeah. But a couple of things. First off, why are you lit like an evil villain?
I think we got some sunlight shining in.
Okay, all right.
I'm just yellow notepad here.
I was wondering what was happening there. Okay, so we got the answer to that. Jazz,
what color are your eyes, rather?
Yeah. Either a blue green.
Blue green.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're gorgeous.
Yeah, the kind of color that just burns through the soul.
Rather's an alien gray. He's a hybrid. Yes.
Man, wouldn't shock me. With the intelligence, I mean, not to say you're a weird guy there, rather.
A little bit of both.
But if there was a show that was going to be infiltrated by an alien that looked like human, this would be the show. And I think definitely you'd be suspect number one. So John Russell, internationally known psychic, $50 donation, says, "Pound it, Jazz.
Oh God, George!
Here's a
shot
for you." I love how he's like he's twisting his arm. Oh, guys, Pete from Creepy Little Book is here. He says, "Hello, everyone. How goes it?" Oh, guys, go subscribe to Pete, Creepy Little Book. He's got a really fun esoteric channel. It is one of my favorite things to listen to.
You're living a good life when you scream off screen for the shot.
Yep.
George, bring me a shot.
No, you're just living a life where you have a spouse and she participates in all of this stuff.
I have no one.
Yeah, we all have no one.
It's a good life.
As good as this. Yeah, it's a good life.
This is for you. Thank you, sir.
That is full to the brim.
That's a healthy shot.
That is a healthy shot.
Oh, we've even got the logo on the front of the shot glass.
Oh, gentlemen. Is it the Gentleman Jack?
Nope, Tennessee honey.
Ooh. Your voice already sounds better. Sounds smoother from that honey.
And I advise everyone, if your voice is bad, start drinking heavily and don't worry about your liver. Really, don't listen to the government. God, they're just lying to you. So,
Mark,
that was a joke, by the way.
Yeah, well,
some FOIAs into the FDA.
There we go.
Yeah. Mark D says, "Jazz Shaw, are IGs always at high enough levels of clearance to see everything?"
Inspector Generals, the highest people, and again, we would need to get up to Lou Elizondo levels and Chris Mellon levels. I imagine there are things the IGs don't see if they are far enough down the chimneys. There's things presidents don't see, that senators don't see. But there are reviews of highly classified material, maybe not down to the level of, did we really have Skinny Bob? But there's highly classified stuff that the top 8 members of Congress and the president and the vice president and the heads of the intelligence committees and the national security issues, they all get to see. So Yeah, there's a handful of people who see those things. There's a lot of people in Congress who don't see them, or they get a very abbreviated version. So wow. Yeah, the bartender is getting upset at this point.
What's the clearest reason for the government to hold back information from us? Are they afraid of revolt and overthrow of the government, that we're going to monetize the information? Like, why are they holding back the JFK information, 9/11, all this stuff? What's their greatest fear?
Thank you, Jake. That's a great example. That's one that I'll go back again to John Greenwald. He has been chasing the JFK documents forever. They still haven't released it. They keep pushing it back. What's the secret that they're holding that could impact national security now about the assassination of JFK? What is there anybody alive who could be punished because of their involvement in that? And my wife just walked out of the room and said the shooter's still alive. That could be it. We don't know. But what's the national security thing? Why would you still be holding that? The old rule used to be you keep it secret until everybody culpable dies, so nobody goes to jail. That was always understood. I think we're in a different era now. There can't be that many people still alive when JFK was assassinated who could be held accountable. The old rules, if we go and release all the information to the public, well, oh yeah, these people did some terrible things. It's a real shame they died in the 90s. Otherwise, we could have asked them, right? But they still keep holding it secret. I think the UFO topic, in my opinion, and I'm not going to cite any real examples, that's a lot more complicated. If some of the speculation that a lot of us have engaged in, and the testimony we've heard from people like Chris Mellon, like Lou Elizondo, that they've been hiding stuff pretty recently that could be really explosive. Well, maybe they have a reason, because if they've been doing a whole bunch of work, as Elizondo has suggested, that involved taxpayer money that was being spent on black programs, and there was no oversight and no accountability, and the money just disappeared down a hole, and Congress finds out that they did that, somebody could go to jail. A lot of people could go to jail, and they don't want to see that happen. So now is there any way we can put this in the JFK assassination box? It's like, okay, yeah, we were spending the money on stuff we didn't tell you about, and we broke the law. Just wait till we die, and then you can tell everybody. So that I think that's one possible scenario.
This is we had a statement here from Rebecca Baines, who put $2 in for super chat. I just want to switch the camera here for a second.
Thank you, Rebecca.
And she says, "Hey guys, first time in the super chat. Much love to you all, but mostly to Rather. Hee hee."
Thank you, Rebecca. Much love to you as well.
Oh man, yeah. I'd pay $2 to see that face turn red any day of the week.
I'd pay $2 to hear you say hee hee one more time.
Hee hee. And Stefan Boudin had a question for you, Jazz, and he asks, do you think that getting pressure from the 5 European countries in which the United States of America have nuclear weapons could be useful, i.e. we don't trust how you treat the UAP threat on nuke sites?
Wow, that's a complex and interesting question. There's actually more than 5 countries that have nukes, by the way. But wow, I don't even know how to address that. I mean, we've had this assumption for the longest time. We've worked on mutually assured destruction. Nobody's going to be the first one to fire nukes, because then everybody fires them and everybody dies, right? So I'm just going to I'm not that smart of a guy. I'm going to take a pass on the question. I apologize to the
Okay.
questioner.
I
That's
have a kind of follow-up
that's
question on
beyond my
that,
realm.
which is interesting. This might be beyond your realm as well, but what if, like, say, Germany or England wants to know what America has on UFOs and nukes or something? What's the process for them trying to figure that out? Is it similar to the FOIA, or is it all back channel negotiations, or how does
That's a great question, rather. Um, that's totally separate from FOIA and the public. I think the Five Eyes groups have been sharing information for a long time. We've had a lot of indications they have been sharing information. Nick Pope has published a lot of the things he's able to publish because he ran the British Ministry of Defense UFO investigation group back in the 90s, and they do share information. We actually, back when things were less uncomfortable with the Russians, we shared information with adversary governments. There's a lot of documents out there that have shown up, where we've been looking at some weird stuff that happened at our nuke sites. The Russians have one of the most extreme ones. British MOD had a document saying that the Russians, or at the time the Soviets, had gone out and actually tried to shoot down a couple of unidentified objects. It ended terribly. They lost as many as 4 planes and as many as 8 pilots because they didn't get attacked, but once they shot, it's like everything went to crap. There's another case everybody can go look up that the American CIA picked up allegedly in the 60s when we were monitoring Cuba as part of the Cuban Missile Crisis. And there was a flight of something that nobody could identify that was between Florida and Cuba. It was sort of heading southwest. And the Cubans sent up 2 jets to go, like, what are you doing on our airspace? No answer, no answer. It was described as being like a metallic ball. And they gave an order to fire on it for one of them. And the CIA claims they have a recording of the other pilot screaming a bunch of expletives and saying that his partner, who had his last message was, "We've locked onto it," exploded, and the plane just fell into the Mediterranean in pieces. It's like there's probably a lot of information out there that we're going to need a lot more verification, but man, a lot of it looks solid. And so, yeah, it's not a clear-cut case of, oh, there's a box of real UFO information for every government here, and there's a bunch of crap, right? We're chasing demons. We're chasing, long-held stories. And the government, I'm sorry to say, has not always been an honest actor, in my opinion. So that's my take on it.
Muted, Lou?
I was saying, I
Still
think you
can't
find
hear
a
you.
lot. Yeah, I think you find a lot of people that share that opinion. But Dan James says, and this one's for Jake, I think, UFO Jane looks very different today. Must be tired. There's normally a lady that sits where you sit there, Jakey.
2 beautiful humans.
Is the best I can do.
Well, it's pretty damn good.
If you're doing the best you can do, you do you, dude.
The Black Vault says, wait, I missed it. Can we get Jazz to do another shot so I can watch? Normally,
Sure, John. Throw in $50.
Well, I was gonna say normally you gotta pay $50 to see Jazz do a shot, but I mean, maybe does John Greenwald sort of have a little tab at the bar? All those FOIAs he's done. It's a lot of good work.
Jazz was taking a mighty sip of whatever was in your cocktail glass there as the question was being read.
Whoa, that's a martini.
All right. It's John Greenwald. Fine.
Right. It's John Greenwald. We got to do a shot for John. Got to.
I have soaked up so much of John's content. The new article we have coming out is like 3/4 John Greenwald stuff.
Yeah. in case, Jake, if you don't know who John Greenwald is, which you probably don't,
Okay.
he is, we like to call him in these parts the FOIA king, because he's been doing
FOIA Emperor, yes.
FOIA Emperor. I mean, he's been doing FOIA requests since he was 15 years old. Am I getting that right? Is that the
He
right
was a
age?
teenager.
He was definitely a teenager, and now he's same age as us. So he's been doing it for 30 years. I mean, it's insane.
That's awesome.
It's awesome. It's insane.
Here's for you, John.
Yeah. There you go,
If I'm
John. That
learning
one's
anything
for you, buddy.
from this podcast is that I need to get married because I want to do what he's doing.
Yeah. No,
Just
Jazz has got a good life.
Off screen. Yeah.
Eventide $5 donation says this goes to John. Give Jazz a shot fund. And Dan James says,
yeah, thank you. And if we get another what?
9 of them.
$45 from a few other people, you can make up for John's shot.
Somebody already did. Somebody already did.
Oh, man, this is
oh my God.
Gonna be a wild last hour of the show.
In. All right. Okay. Dan James with $5 says people won't care if the people are involved are dead. They will still hold the office accountable. Do you think that's true?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I don't. I'm sorry. I realize I'm old enough to be at least the parent, if not the grandparent, of most of the people on the show. No, I don't think the American government has any embarrassment. I think they have gone on for a very long time to say a lot of things that turned out later to not be true. Are you accountable today? Yeah, they're worried about that if they have to get elected again, or they might go to jail. Nobody's worried about it down in the long term. You know, the amount of things they've lied to us about. I'm not talking about UFOs. You know, go back and look at the Tuskegee Airmen. Go back and look at the experiments that were done on our own troops, giving them experimental drugs. Nobody ever knew about it until decades later. You know, this isn't conspiracy theory shit. I'm sorry, are we on the radio show?
No, you're good. Shit is fine. We can say shit.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not conspiracy theory shit.
Yeah.
It's shit that's been proved later on. The government's done it over and over and over again. We already know this. A lot of the time they do good work. They really do. I admit that. But when they're doing stuff they realize they don't want people to know about, they lie about it.
Yeah.
And they get up to all sorts of nasty crap. That I don't see how that's in dispute. It's what they've done. Hey, we're doing something good for you. Oh, great. Thanks. And you go show us. And we passed this bill and we're going to put money out there and you're going to get relief on these things. That's all great. There's a lot of other crap they do that they're like, we don't really want people to know about that. You know, I'm not trying to sound like a conspiracy theorist, seriously, but they have done this over and over again. Look at the Tuskegee Airmen. Just go look at that. That's all you need to look at. They have lied continuously when it serves their purposes.
Right.
Oh, well, we'd never do that today, right? Let's see a show of hands in the chat.
Yeah.
How many people think, oh, we'd never do that today, right? Really? You believe that? I don't.
No.
And I'm pretty old, and I've been watching all this shit go down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can look as recently as Pat Tillman, Guantanamo Bay. There's a lot of stuff that they're
Excellent
not gonna
example.
They're not going to be. They're just not going to be honest about it. It's going to be pulling teeth to get the truth on some of these things. But Jean-Francois Chalabois, thank you so much for the $50 donation. Says for John, and then John threw in a $50 and says, "Y'all know I love y'all. You guys, amazing. Thank you so damn much. We haven't had $3 $50 super chats in a while, so truly appreciate it." Oh, Jazz Shaw,
thank you, John.
this kind of action to the super chat. So we appreciate it, you guys. It goes a very, very long way. Truly, truly, truly. Thank you. So we mentioned a little earlier, Chris Mellon, and his article that he wrote in the Hill, and that kind of ties into what your article with the FOIA process. I mean, it just sounds like across the board, the Department of Defense, all branches of the military are just overclassifying things way too much. And the thing that I found interesting that Chris Mellon pointed out in his article is that in the Cold War, we were releasing things all the time because it forced innovation. We were unclassifying tech all the time,
Right.
because putting that out there, then people will copy it, and then that forces you to innovate and get something even better. So obviously, this is going to be an initiative for the Big Phone Home 3, but what do you think are the committees, for example, that we could target with these requests that you think that will help us maybe take this conversation even farther and help out Chris Mellon, because that's what he's asking. He's asking us, he's asking the military, hey, you guys need to declassify some stuff. Like, I would love to get the longer versions of the Tic Tac gimbal Go Fast. Like, why can't we have those? They're already out there. Everybody already knows they exist. So what's the problem? Why can't we get the full versions of those videos, do you think, in your opinion?
Those are two really different questions.
Yeah.
The first one, we're going to have another article next week over the debrief, but specifically about this with the Chris Mellon article. They've been hiding a lot of stuff for a long time, but the fact is, the entire era before the current era, there was a bunch of information that was not released to the public, but it wasn't classified. It was just need to know, right? And now Chris Mellon has identified, we have to lock everything down. Everything that the committee was dealing with has to be classified, right? That's inexcusable. And the fact is, the government does this a lot. But what I want to see, not from the government, what I want to see from you, Luis, what I want to see from Rather, what I want to see from everybody at UCR and all the different people that support this, I want to see another effort of saying, this isn't acceptable. This is unacceptable. You had a bunch of stuff that you never classified. And now that somebody noticed, now it all has to be classified.
Right.
Go read Chris Mellon's article and go participate in the next Big Phone Home. Do it. Because I still believe the first two Big Phone Home efforts had a big influence. Because people were in Congress, in the Senate, House members, when they start getting a whole bunch of phone calls, and I'm not talking tens of thousands, a local office that gets 50 calls in 1 week and says, hey, this is an issue that's important to me. I would like to know what you're going to do about this. They pay attention to that. And man, this is going to be, I think, the biggest front that the Big Phone Home can take on.
Yeah.
That we've seen yet.
Let me ask you
this. You have
this.
to get people out there and just go, we're not going to accept this. Because, go ahead.
No. Thank you for saying that. But I was going to ask you, in your opinion, when do you think is the best time to do the Big Phone Home 3? What would be the most impactful time, do you think?
Oh, man. It would have been an easy question like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
With all the stuff going on with Ukraine right now, it's
tough.
It needs to be at a time when things slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
And I would say they're going to be negotiating the next NDAA and the IAA in November of this year. we have to get, again, this is an opinion, just my opinion. We have a midterm election coming up. That's going to take place towards the end of the year. I would say after the midterm election, but before we go into the next legislative session, that's the ideal time.
So you're thinking like November, October sometime.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying that's when the big phone home 3 should happen.
Yeah.
But there should be a push in that period when everybody's, okay, I lost my seat. Okay, I still have my seat. You know, because that's a big motivating factor, right? Yeah. I would like to see it happen before Christmas, probably early November.
And what kind of congressional action should we be looking for them to address the overclassification? Is it, revamping the classification laws, or trying to get some laws for oversight into these decisions? Or what do you think would have the most bang for the congressional buck there?
Really complicated question, rather. The laws that deal with this, I've already started drafting up some stuff. I'll send to Luis. We do need, and Kristen Gillibrand has gone out and said, okay, we need less secrecy. That has to be formulated. It's not an easy question. It's not like, oh, we have an answer. Let's do this, and you don't keep any secrets anymore. That doesn't happen. We need to get a really good definition of how the government deals with these questions and saying, okay, this is important. It's a thing we're dealing with, but we want reports to the public. Yeah, it's complicated. I'm sorry to say I don't have an answer for you.
Would you ever run for office, Jazz? Or Luis,
Never.
have anybody go up? How come?
Never. How come? Dude, I'm in my 60s. I've been like dragging my ass along as far as I can as a journalist. I'm not going to go start a new career right now. My wife barely tolerates me doing these shows. I'm not going to run for office. No. Sorry.
What makes you ask that question, Jake?
Well, I'm trying to figure out the path of least resistance here, and we're talking about government possible conspiracies or withholding information. What if you and your awesome audience got a guy in Congress or at the Senate or somewhere in government who can not just ask these questions from the outside, but work from the inside on your behalf?
You're on the ballot, Jake Matthews. You're our guy. You're our
trial run. Yeah, but I have a snowball's chance this cycle.
For sure. But that gives us a whole cycle to prepare the message for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know who else had a snowball's chance in hell? AOC. And she won.
Yeah.
You're never out of the fight so long as you keep fighting, Jake.
That's a good point. What say you, Jake Matthews?
I agree.
Yeah. Well, no, but you do make a good point. And I think what starting and leading always with Christopher Mellon's efforts and Lou Elizondo's efforts and all of those pilots and witnesses that came forward, all of that work, all of the private briefings, all of that stuff helped get us now to where we are today, where we've established a new UAP office in the AOI MSG. We've got congressmen and senators talking about this on the floor and also pressing new inspector generals that are coming in that, hey, you're going to look at this and you're going to write back to me letting me know when you have looked at this. And I hope this is on your radar. And that's happening today, I think, because of those efforts, in conjunction with people calling and making that grassroots level effort. But I think Jake's right. I think there's got to be a space for a candidate that makes this part of his 5 initiatives of getting more honesty and coupling that with the UAP discussion, because like we've seen, anytime Gillibrand talks about this, anytime Andre Carson talks about this, anytime Tim Burchett talks about this, anytime a president talks about this, and they tweet, especially if they tweet it out, it is the most popular thing on their feed that's retweeted and liked and shared. So
Absolutely.
there is a hunger for this here. And I think if you coupled that with, hey, look, this satisfies the UFO people, but this also satisfies the people that want questions or that want answers on JFK, that want answers on how certain parts of our government work and things that they're not answering. This is about making our government more transparent and declassifying things so we as a government could gain more trust from you, the people. Because the more honest we are with you, the more trust we get from you. And this is a win-win for everybody. So I think there's room for something like that there. Right? What do you think, Jazz?
No, I think there is room for that. I'm probably more jaded than everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's becoming more popular than it was when, you know, in a political atmosphere 5 years ago, let alone 10 or 20.
Dude, I was actually a voting person when Watergate happened. And I spent a serious amount of time going, oh my God, Nixon would never ever erase the tapes. Nobody would do that. I realize that's a reference that's probably beyond most of the audience.
No, I think most people get it.
But, you know, and then it turned out to be totally true.
Yeah.
You know, people don't know the government screws you over all the time.
Right.
When they can get away with it, if it's in their best interest, you know. So that's, I regret saying that. I realize I sound like the old guy, like shaking a stick at you, like, you know, oh, when I was your age. I don't think you
sound like the old guy at all. I think you're pretty sensible right now.
You know, but no, I don't see it the way you do. I think it's totally plausible. All of this could be happening right now because it's happened before. You know, we lived through it. Okay.
Well, you got to go, Jess. It's been an hour.
I got to go. I gave you an hour, and I'm sorry I got to go.
No, you're a beautiful man.
No,
Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you, Jazz.
Thank you for breaking the FOIA process down. Thank you for taking the shots. You are a gentleman and a scholar, and we'll see you soon.
Always support you guys.
Thank you, man. We love you. Cool. Jazz Shaw, everyone. How was your first Jazz Shaw experience there, Jake?
It was great. He's a good guy. I think he thinks he's older than he is. He's not 300 years old.
This is true.
At a certain point, I was going to be like, your skin is too good to be as old as you're putting on
Please,
here.
Jake, anytime you're on this show, let those thoughts flow out of your mouth.
I mean, like the references were just getting older and older. It was like I'm sure like at a certain point he's going to be like, during the Civil War, I remember. I'm like, no, you were not alive then.
You were not alive.
I'm going to stop you here.
Yeah.
But like his references also like to us, we're getting younger, and he's like, some of you guys won't remember Watergate. Some of you guys won't remember 9/11. I know most of you are too young to remember COVID-19. It's like we aren't fetuses.
No, he
does have a lot of wisdom.
He's the veteran. He's the veteran in the room. You know, he's the salty vet, and we love him to death around here. And yeah, I mean, I love talking to him because it is. And it's not a knock on his age. It is like talking to my grandfather. It reminds me a lot of talking to him. And that's why I enjoy his conversations so much.
Absolutely.
They hit right to my heart. So yeah, man, he's a beautiful dude. And he's not afraid to share his opinion and be himself, which is also really cool. But we never got the one thing I wanted to touch on, and I know, Jake, you wanted to bring some stuff up, and we'll get to that here in 15, 20 minutes or so. But the thing I tweeted about this yesterday because John Greenwald had had put out the emails through FOIA requests that he got from Lou Elizondo to Susan Goff. And in every single letter that he sends to her, and I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, rather, but the last two letters, he didn't even get a response. Right? Like, she just completely ignored him.
That's right.
In these letters, it sounds like, number one, he's annoyed. He's incredibly annoyed that he even has to write this letter, let alone one, but three of the pretty much the same letters. If you read those three letters and you come away with, this guy's not being honest, this guy he's hiding something as far as the motivations as for why he's doing this, I think you're missing the plot on this one for me. I mean, these letters for me, he's so damn adamant that he's telling the truth. And he's got the receipts as far as, here are the meetings, here are the people. There were 17 people that he listed in one of these emails that he's had meetings with in briefings and in all sorts of different places, and making congressional lawmakers aware of the problem that he had and why he did what he did, and how the process is broken. And, after the first, the Pentagon basically comes out and says, yeah, he had nothing to do with ATIP. And then a former senator, majority leader, comes out and has to write a letter while he's dying of cancer to correct the Department of Defense. And then this guy sends 3 letters saying, why are you guys doing this? Like, it's so simple to check the history on this, and you'll see that I'm not lying. If he is lying, for me, he's pushed this to a point where we've got classified congressional briefings happening. We've got laws that have been written and passed. We've got new offices being created, new budgets being created. This is a lot of moving parts. This is taxpayer dollars now we're talking about here. Okay. If the Department of Defense did not believe him or did not think he was being honest, why are they not just nipping this in the bud? Why are they not just showing, look, all of these dates, all of these people, all of these emails that he claims, look, here's the truth, here's the proof. They just don't respond. It's insulting, dude. Like, it's insulting that a man of this, a veteran of this status, has to go this far to defend his own name. And then a segment of this community turns around and goes, liar, we want more honesty, we want the bodies, we want the aliens. And it's like, this has got nothing to do with that. This is my legacy. It's his legacy that he's asking Susan Goff and the Department of Defense to just keep intact and simply acknowledge, and they refuse to do it. Why are we not asking more questions and giving more fire to the Department of Defense and Susan Goff that we do to Lou Elizondo?
I think that Susan Goff gets a lot of pushback and a lot of way more criticism than Lou Elizondo.
She doesn't have a Twitter account. She doesn't do very many interviews. She doesn't respond to a lot of emails. So what kind of heat could she possibly be getting? Who's giving her heat?
Well, I mean, who's giving Lou Elizondo heat either, right?
I mean,
on Twitter, but you don't have to read Twitter.
Dude, yeah, you don't have to read Twitter, but at least you're there. You're making yourself publicly accessible. You're putting yourself in interviews with 60 Minutes and, folks like John Greenwald who really dot, the I's and cross the T's. And I think he's been as forthright as he can be. Like, it's this idea, there's folks who are like, why doesn't he debate Stephen Greer? Because there's nothing for him to gain there. It's like going into a debate with tape put over your mouth. He's not allowed to talk about 90 to 95% of the stuff that he knows. So if Stephen, Stephen, what the hell's his last name? There's so many Stevens. Stephen Greer, makes some crazy claim in a debate that he can't talk about because either of classification, sensitive material. There could be a multitude of reasons. He says, well, I can't answer because of national security, because of my NDAA. And it's a legit reason. It doesn't do Lou Elizondo any favors to do a debate with a guy who's a fucking fraudster. A fraud. He's a fraud. Stephen Greer is a fraud. Full stop. And it doesn't, why would you ever debate someone like that? And on a channel called Third Phase of Moon that is known to be liars. They spread bogus UFO videos all the time. They propagate some of the nastiest, rudest, meanest people in this conversation. Why would you go debate anyone that has anything to do with any one of those two entities?
Yeah, you wouldn't. And I don't think there's any chance he will.
Yeah. What, Jake?
Who?
We hate Stephen Greer, right?
Yes. You don't have to go check out Stephen Greer.
I just happened to Google image this guy, and this is like one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life.
I think I know.
I can't imagine the images that you're pulling up.
Little backstory.
It's just
he thinks he can summon aliens and UFOs by meditating, and he charges people a lot of money to take them out to the desert to have this experience. And there's been some pretty credible reports that, at least on some occasion, he has hired airplanes to go out and drop flares and kind of pretend that those are UFOs.
That's a fact. He straight up dropped flares in front of people on a beach and told everyone it was UFOs, and even told people that had thermal imaging cameras that could see like exactly what it was if they looked through. He's like, yeah, put down your camera there, thermal imaging guy. Like, just put it down. You don't need it. Just watch and experience this. He charges people exorbitant amount of money. But the reason why people follow him is because his early career, he was the first guy ever to round up senators, congressmen, former FBI members, investigators, all sorts of people at the National Press Club, and gave a 2-3 hour presentation. It was the first of its kind. It was really amazing, cool work. You got to see a lot of different perspectives and people. My opinion, way too long. Some of the researchers in there did not need to be there. But it was the first of its kind. And it was awesome. And then he somehow transferred into this, I can summon aliens through meditation. And hey, you want to see him too? Cool. $1,200, meet me at Joshua Tree.
So he's making bank now.
Oh my God, dude. This guy is.
Dude, every day I think about this. Wouldn't it be amazing if we could just sell out and lie? Like, I wish I could sell out and lie. I would be so rich and happy and content. The only reason why I'm ever miserable is because I'm trying to be a good person. I can so easily screw everyone over as well.
Dude.
I wish I could just do that. Like, I hope I just one day get like old enough to just be like, I don't care about you.
I get shit from about 10 or 12 people in this community that people give me super chats. Like, people threw in $150 worth of super chats in like a minute, which is crazy. And thank you. But nobody's putting a gun to anybody's head and telling them to do this.
Yeah,
exactly. This is completely voluntary. And I'm not giving you any answers on this show. But I agree with you, man. I wish I was the guy going, you know what? You want the answers on this UFO topic? All you got to do is pay $14.99 a month.
Yes,
and you get secret access to my blog, and you get first access to my podcasts and all of my videos. And in there, you will find the secret as to why our government is lying to you about the alien phenomenon.
Dude,
join now.
I cannot wait to sell out. You know what? I want to sell out with you, Lou. Like, let's just give up at some point in our lives.
Feel
maybe when we're 89. That's fine. But let's just like sell a shitty product. Dude, I bought that. I don't know how I fell for this. This is the oldest scam in American business. It's an uncultured white guy goes to India for a month, discovers there's a spice other than lemon pepper, and comes back to America and goes, have you heard of turmeric? And he sells the thing. So I bought mud water in bulk. It is the worst thing, and I'm an Indian guy. I know all these spices. I like snort that stuff as a baby. And I bought it from a white dude who's like, this is an ancient thing from India. I'm like, this is cinnamon and turmeric and salt. It's so bad. And I'm like, this guy's probably on a yacht somewhere. He's like, I don't give a shit. I made $7 million in a year. I'm done.
Mud water.
I cannot wait. I am going to come up with a crap product. Like, dude, let's make a promise to ourselves.
I feel like
just before we die.
It almost feels like it would be a wonderful. It would be a wonderful just experiment. I feel like it's an experiment that is ripe to go absolutely to our heads and wrong. Like we would see the first $2 million and we'd be like, well, "Fuck, man, maybe this mud water is actually great."
Exactly. Look at
this
like,
guy,
G West. Like
G West, $15. He says, "Take my money." Thank you, G West. I will take your money. I appreciate it, my friend.
Oh man,
that is Well, I'm sorry, you were saying.
No, I find that mindset so fascinating. Like either you're born that way, or it's like deterministic in you, or you just make a decision. Like I don't like what is Rudy Giuliani doing? Like you're knocking on death's door and you're still just like, this is the hill I will die on. It's like, dude, just be an elder statesman. Be like, look, I made some mistakes. I'm really proud of my 9/11 work and my response. Sorry, my bad that I was a piece of crap in my 70s. I don't know why I did that, but now I'm in my 80s or however old he is. And I just wish everyone to be happy. But he's gonna die on that hill of just being a nasty person. It's just weird, man. It's weird. It's weird. But let's make a pledge. You and I should do it. With our last breath, let's do an infomercial.
Man, it could
make a bunch of money right before you can't spend it.
Right before we can't spend it. Perfect. And Dan James with a $2 donation says, "So this doesn't go towards the yacht payment, Lou?" Actually, it goes. It goes to well. There's the yacht payment. Then there's also got to pay docking fees, right, Jake? That's for yachts. I mean, what are the docking fees for one of these big yachts? It's got to be.
It's insane. That's actually the part that sinks, no pun intended, most boat owners early because they charge by the foot. So if you buy a 27-foot small little skiff versus a 39-foot boat, your docking fees is going to be more than 50% of your budget, over time. So that's the part where people don't really allocate for it. But but anyway, if somebody's buying a new boat, they probably have enough money.
You would think
owners aren't too concerned.
I'm in the market for a boat now, but that's with a budget of $7,000 for a 40-year-old
it's like a
little
Boston
thing.
whaler.
It's like here's a bathtub with a flag going up it. Every scene is just the perfect storm.
What is that cartoon where the penguin wants to get the warm weather? They put him in a bathtub and then they just stick this spigot in the hole.
That's me.
And he zooms all the way to South America from Antarctica.
100%. With the boats I'm looking at, every moment is the perfect storm. It's you're still tied up to the dock and it's still the perfect storm.
Yeah. But okay, so sorry, we digress. But quickly rather, what do you think about these three letters, man? Does this do anything for someone, who's I don't want to call you a hardline skeptic, but you are a little more skeptical than I am. I mean, do these letters just for you say anything about what this man's trying to do?
I trust that Lou is genuine. I've never really questioned that too much. It kind of seems to me what's going on is kind of the same thing that's going on with a lot of the FOIA stuff is that there's probably some technicality where potentially Susan Go is maybe technically correct. ATIP maybe wasn't an official program. And so maybe, by the actual, if you really are technical about it, maybe he didn't have those responsibilities as, mandated as part of his position. But it was something he was involved in, right? And so I think it's possible that they're both right.
Let's go back to that for a second. But it's not just him saying it. It's a former Senate majority leader also backing him up and saying it. It's an undersecretary of defense also backing him up.
There's so much confusion here with the OSAP and Harry Reid, talking about the funding, the $12 million or $24 million.
Let me ask you this: why does it matter?
But it really went to OSAP.
But why does it matter
to me? It doesn't matter to me.
I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
At this point, I really could give a shit about OSAP or ATIP. I don't care. All I know is
What's
that there was
OSAP and
22
ATIP?
million allocated. They looked at UFOs. They've also might have looked at lizards and portals and other weird shit. The point is that the government spent money to look at weird stuff. That's it.
Yeah.
And
Yes, very,
and
very
Lula
interesting
Lozano
historical
seems to have been a
information,
part
but
of it. Wait, sorry, what'd you say?
very interesting, historical context. The OSAP was, they went and investigated Skinwalker Ranch as part of the government investigation, found weird things like dino beavers and portals and all sorts of weird stuff. And then, that the funding dried up, and then there was kind of an unofficial after program, which was headed by Lou Elizondo. And it's unclear exactly what that program did, which I do think is, interesting. But I agree with you, Lou. Ultimately, it doesn't matter, right?
It doesn't matter.
We
But
now
I
know that there
mean-
are unidentified things in the sky, and the government is looking at it, and it's due to Elizondo's work. So
What more do you need
applause.
to know? Yeah, applause. Yeah. I mean, and I guess my point is, man, like, if this guy was lying, why is he bringing this much attention to a lie that he's telling? You know what I mean? Like, why would he do, like, the consequences for this kind of manipulation, I think would be, he would definitely lose his pension, which is something that he talks about all the time. And he would definitely go to prison without a doubt. Without a doubt, he would go to prison.
I don't know if I agree. If there's anything weird and nefarious going on with Lou Elizondo, I would think that potentially Lou Elizondo might be part of government planned disclosure by maybe a small group in the government. And potentially, there's some internal government disorganization.
But I think if that was the case, he wouldn't be jumping up and down in 3 letters going, please correct this, please correct this. He wouldn't care because he knows he's part of a program. You know what I'm saying? He's trying to correct the record because he wants it to be right. And
that could be, he might want it to be right as part of if he is part of a kind of unofficial disclosure from the government, I don't think that that's at odds at all with what he's saying, right? He'd still want to get that information and be like, yes, I was doing these events, government, hey, back me up. Part of the government that maybe isn't clued into the, potential operation that he's currently involved in. But I don't think that delegitimizes him at all. But I think it maybe might explain some of this confusion and the mud surrounding it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when I tweeted this last night, it was funny because Green Street tweeted back and he said, well, what receipts do you got? Like in other words, like, prove it. And I was like, receipts? These 3 letters, strongly worded letters to Susan Goff are receipts. His insistency are receipts. Laws being written, congressional classified briefings being had. Those are all receipts. And they're receipts that are very well kept in public. And if in 10 years, 8 years, let's say I'll go 4 years, the program ends and we spent $1 billion on it. Let's just put a number out there, even half it, let's say $500 million on it. Okay. And then we come to find out nothing comes of this study. Nothing was found, and legitimately nothing was found, in that this whole thing was just a ploy to get government money to fund black projects or whatever. He would go to prison. He would go to Christopher Mellon. And if they didn't go to prison, I'd be upset. I'd be very upset. Because they just manipulated $500 million worth of taxpayer money to fund bullshit. I don't think that's happening because of how insistent he is on looking at it. Just getting a response from the Department of Defense, and they just are mum, which doesn't look good.
I mean, I think that it's kind of obvious that there was at least an unofficial ATIP program that Lou Elizondo was a part of. I think that where the kind of distinction lies is, was ATIP an official government program or was it not an official government program? I don't think it matters at all. But I think when Stephen Greenstreet
Lou. It matters to Lou. And I think that's for me the whole point is that if this was like a psyop, if this was some sort of planned disclosure, if this was whatever, it would just be like, listen, be Be the raft in the lazy river. Just go with the flow. Why rock the boat? You know where the end of this ride is. There's no reason for him to make a fuss about this detail, especially if this detail to a lot of people like you and me, it doesn't matter, but to him it matters. Like his emails getting erased matter. This is a
That's
guy
another
that
issue, yeah.
and that's a receipt as well, Stephen Greenstreet. This is his involvement within our government led to the arrest of Kashif KSM Shalik Muhammad.
Yeah.
And you're deleting that guy's emails. What's happening? It's against protocol. It's like that's not even supposed to be happening right at this junction. There's supposed to be another 15, 20 years before they even consider deleting someone like that's emails. So it's just again, the Air Force, the Department of Defense, and Susan Goff and the press secretary for the Department of Defense, Kirby, you all look like fools, liars. I don't trust you as far as I can throw you. You're not bringing any clarity to this conversation. And if Lou Elizondo's lying, or if he says he's not who he says he is, it's time for you guys to bring your receipts. It's time for you guys to be a little bit more forthcoming, because this is bullshit. I'm tired of this shit. This guy for the last 4 years has been on 400 podcasts. He's been on a multitude of different news networks, telling this story, selling this idea, trying to motivate people to activate themselves and write congressmen, which even if you're doing it about UFOs, that is an American, people should be applauding the fact that people got motivated to write, call, tweet a senator and congressman about anything, let alone UFOs. Who else? Who knows now that more people know the process on how to do FOIA, how to call a senator, how to write a senator, how to do this. That leads to more
how our military is funded. Yeah.
How the military is funded. These are all good things in the experiment that is democracy. And these are all things that in a way he's doing. He's fighting.
Even us all a civics lesson. Yeah.
Why would you doubt? I can understand when things, especially when it gets to the important questions of security clearances and where were you on this date at this time and da 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 da. Those details to me are starting to fizzle away because of the actions. I usually judge people based on their actions, not on what they say or what they espouse or their bullshit. It's show me what you got. What are you doing? Are you talking about it or are you doing it? He's doing it. So for all of the haters out there, seriously take a step back and just chill. Just chill and look at the totality of this. And again, just think of the consequences if you or I fooled the government out of $500 million or $20 million or $50 million or $1 billion. We would all go to prison. And I don't think Lou Elizondo has the juice or the connections to keep his butt out of prison if he is orchestrating a lie of this magnitude. I really don't. And if it's a conspiracy where it is a psyop and this is some sort of disinformation operation against the American people, that is also illegal, and that will come to the surface at some point. Because there's only people are paying attention to this topic right now. If we're still in the same space where we were today in next year, 2 years, 5 years. People are going to be asking what the hell's going on, especially now there's an office and there's a budget tied to it. And I'm going to be one of those people going, what the hell's going on? We gave you the budget. We gave you the approval. We asked you for information on A, B, C, D, and E. Where the hell is it? That's why we do the big phone home. That's why we call these guys. That's why we put the pressure on, because that's what works. We have to, it's not just one big phone home. Big phone home is every day. You could do it every day. You could call a congressman or senator, and you could go to our website. You can learn how to do it. So I guess that's my soapbox for the day. Cause I saw these emails, man, and I'm reading this and I'm like, this is bullshit. Imagine if this was you, dude. He's defending himself. I'm reading this and I'm like, this sounds like something I'd write if I was just trying to defend myself and get the story straight.
Yeah.
So back off. Back off, Goofon.
I totally agree with everything you say. It's, a little bit of pushback on. I think that if you assume the worst of Lou and you think that he's a liar, I still don't think he's done anything illegal or anything. Like, I don't think that they would be put in jail for anything. I think that
unless, of course, those lies led to budgets and laws being passed, then I think that is something different. Rather,
I think it'd be
like
very hard to prove that
don't.
Like a
I don't think
misrepresentation
so.
of yourself.
I don't think so, because he's showing you the meetings that he's having. So if he's showing you the meetings that he's having, that means that if in 8 years it turns out to be bullshit, we could FOIA those things. We can find out what was said in these meetings and who was there and what was talked about, depending on what the kind of.
But still, what laws? If you talk to a congressperson in private and lie to them, that's not against the law. He hasn't testified before Congress. I don't.
Appropriating taxpayer money
he's not doing
fund
that, though.
Something that the American people weren't intended to fund, convincing lawmakers to do so. Yeah, I think he'd get into trouble, man.
I don't agree with that. I don't think that that's happening, but I don't think that's happening. I'm a little bit more cynical about people being held accountable for things. Lobbyists do stuff like that, right? Lobbyists convince people to do stuff that are against the American interest, and they never get put in jail.
Like what?
All sorts of things. I mean, I don't have any specific examples off the top of my head, but that's kind of the lobbyist job, is right to convince Congress to do things that your interests want.
Okay, but if you had a company that had a lobbyist that was lobbying, that was paying senators and congressmen to say, I'm just using this as an example. Okay, clean water, for example, and they were using these lobbyists to say, "Oh yeah, the water's fine, water's fine, water's fine." Meanwhile, the company is actually polluting the shit out of the water, and it's killed, let's say, 1,000 people. Okay, like you don't think, and there's not going to be any congressmen or lawmakers that get grilled and questioned about that and possibly serve some jail time if it ends up killing people in a short amount of time, or
maybe I'm cynical, but I don't think they'd go to jail.
You don't think so?
I don't. Oof. I mean, like Flint. Did anyone go to jail for Flint and their water fiascos? Maybe they did. Maybe the mayor went to jail, or maybe someone did go to jail.
I'd have to look. I mean,
I feel like it's example, the higher up you go in the government and stuff, I feel like the less accountable people are.
Flint's a good example. If there was thousands of people that were affected, like if the water was poisoned and 1,000 people that day, or whoever drank water that day from the faucet was killed, I think there'd be a lot more attention on Flint. And I think that's my point with this, is if you're allocating, $1 billion from taxpayer money to go fund against some whatever it is, I think there's going to be receipts. There's going to be ways to hold those people accountable. I can tell you, I don't think it'd be a slap on the wrist, man. I mean, look, maybe I'm wrong about this. We should probably talk to like Greenwald, or that probably should have been a question that we asked Jazz. But I don't think,
regardless, this discussion is kind of moot, because I don't think either of us think that Lou Elizondo was in that position.
Agreed.
I think we both agree that he's being trustworthy and
absolutely. But I'm just a little fatigued. I reached a fatigue point. I was like, these things, like a lot of these things really don't matter. And I'm looking at the totality of this. I'm looking at these letters and I'm like, come on, man. Like, this is like,
yeah, we're not going to move this discussion forward by learning more about Lou Elizondo's past. What we need to know is learn more about these 164 unidentified objects in the sky that government has not been able to explain. That's where I think the conversation should be focusing.
I agree 100%. Jake Matthews been real quiet during this conversation. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm just kind of learning because I'm so new to this stuff. So we don't like Lou.
No, we love Lou.
We
love Lou.
Both Lou's. I like this Lou and Lou Elizondo.
Yeah, both this Lou yeah.
But that Lou, we're wondering if he's moved taxpayer dollars based on what he's saying.
Well, I think the problem is that he's, first of all, he's a former counterintelligence agent. He's from the inside the government. He's an insider guy, right? And so there's this part of the community that doesn't trust him immediately because of his former job and what he did. And so this guy,
I don't trust him just because of that thing.
Well,
he
he's
doesn't
changed
have it
that.
anymore. He's got a full beard. He changed it. So
has my
maybe,
support.
maybe that'll win you back. But yeah, so there's like a group of people that are just never going to trust him, no matter what he says, no matter what he tries to put out there. And he's like, I can't even imagine, you know, like I feel like from his perspective, he's trying to do the right thing. He went through the proper channels to be a whistleblower, essentially, helped release 3 videos, helped people, you know, he was part of the New York Times article that basically brought this program to light. And since it's been brought to light, there's just been a lot of contradictions, and people who worked for the program said he had nothing to do with it, but these people say he did. And you know, he writes a letter to the Department of Defense saying, hey, I was part of this program. Then a senator chimes in and goes, and writes a letter and goes, he was definitely part of the program. I know this because I was in charge of the program. And it's just like all of these like details matter, but for like, and I don't want to just
results
blow
matter
away
more.
details, but results matter more. And the results that Lou Elizondo and Christopher Mellon have provided for this topic are more than anything that anyone has ever produced on this topic. Period. Full stop. More than Roswell, more than Blue Book, more than the Condon Report, more than Bob Lazar, more than George Knapp, more than anybody. These 2 guys are responsible for why we're having a congressional discussion about this today, why people are calling in and demanding more clarity on this topic. Why are we lighting this man on fire? We have to be patient and let the chips fall where they may and see what happens. And I think in the last 4 years, we've moved the ball down the field more than at any other time in this topic history. So, you know, I saw those letters and it pissed me off. I was just like, because, you know, and for good reason. We've doubted Lou on this show. Like we've gone, yeah, like why is so and so, you know, and we've gone down these deep rabbit holes, and we've talked to him, we've talked to his dad, we've done everything we can to get to know him as a human. I've met him in person, so I feel like I have a little bit of a connection there from a humanistic standpoint. And when I saw these letters, man, I was just like, it pissed me off that a guy of this, that's this honorable, that has served his country without blemishes, as he pointed out, and he's getting this from our Department of Defense. Like, I'm like, why? What? That doesn't motivate any kid that's 18 years old trying to decide, well, do I want to go to college? Do I want to enter the military? What if he hears this or he sees these emails? I think that's going to make his decision real easy. Oh, this is how they treat veterans. This is how they treat people who took down Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. You know, this is the guy who this is how we treat the guy who hunted down terrorists from 9/11. Like, are you serious? Are we really? This is what we're doing now. I don't know. That's just my soapbox. I was pissed. Jake, you wanted to talk about something. What did you have on your mind?
This is completely unrelated to...
Unrelated.
Is that okay?
Yeah, how do we segue to the unrelated?
Hey guys, this is completely unrelated. You ready?
Beautiful.
Excellent. What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, this is really abstract now, so kind of bear with me here, and I'm going to qualify by saying this. And it's a quote: language is a pale shadow of what we're trying to communicate, like what we're actually trying to communicate here. So this is a thing that I kind of came across a couple of months ago. I'm having a really difficult time conveying this to anyone. I'm actually really hesitant to convey this to anyone or to share this knowledge or this thing that I've read recently, because it's been the most dangerous thing that I've ever read in my whole life. And I think I'm pretty well read, well-rounded in my reading. And it's the most dangerous thing. I haven't yet. Usually when I come across a new idea, I will take a couple of weeks, couple of months to kind of conclude my own opinion on it. I'm not yet concluded on this, so I'm kind of presenting this to your audience and to you guys with this not quite having the Jake Matthews imprimatur on it. It doesn't quite have my seal of approval on it yet, but...
You're just spitballing an idea.
Yes, but...
It might sound absolutely crazy.
I don't think it's crazy. It's just scary and it's dangerous. I can't unsee.
Like Mein Kampf dangerous, or
should I be concerned?
Should I be concerned? Are you about to say something where, like, I think we should eliminate half the world population? Like, you're
No.
seriously thinking about this? Okay.
Well,
but is it
no,
something along those lines?
Here's the,
What do we got? Just
no,
spit it out.
Yeah,
no.
to think about
Not
it.
along the lines of, Mein Kampf. No. It's more along the lines of like, it completely broke me down and I'm having a difficult time building myself back up, but I'm happy to be in this space right now. Let me stop being around the bush. Let's just get to it.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to say, before we go into this, thank you to everyone who listened to the Afghanistan thing that we talked about the last time I was here. If any of you guys are still here, thank you very much. We're still trying to work to get those people out. And I'm kind of new to like the comment stuff. Swing, Sparky, Tic Tac, Travis. I read all your comments. Thank you very much. Here's what it is. There's a guy named Ernest Becker who wrote a book called The Denial of Death. Have you heard of him or the book? Okay. A couple of decades later, a guy named Dr. Sheldon Solomon, him and two other colleagues, he's a professor at Skidmore College, wrote a book called The Worm at the Core, which is a scientific study of the book, The Denial of Death. This also paired with Dr. Robert Sapolsky. If you have heard of him, he's a professor at Stanford on human biology. And he's basically been concluding recently that there doesn't appear to be any sort of free will, and humans seem to be completely deterministic. Okay, so that idea paired with something called terror management theory, which is the whole Ernest Becker worm at the core, denial of death, compared with what I'm studying in cosmology and like the Big Bang theory and all that stuff, these three together have been blowing my mind, and that's me putting it lightly, where I'm kind of in shambles now, and I don't know how to quite communicate what I'm saying, but like basically what it's saying is this: everything that we're going through right now, having this podcast, discussing UAPs, having a cocktail, getting married, having kids, having a job, whatever it is, it's a culture that we're creating because we're afraid to say the truth. And that truth is that we're just respiring animals who have there is no reason, there's no meaning to anything. And I don't want to sound like a crazy person when I say that out loud.
Almost like a nihilistic, like a nihilistic sort of philosophy.
Oh, it's like worse than it's like we can't even say words because like even like language itself is just a sham. Like everything just suddenly becomes a sham because humans have the capacity to know that this means nothing and we can't beat death. It doesn't matter who you are, Napoleon, Jesus, Lazarus, Hitler. It doesn't matter who you are, Lady Gaga. We're all going to die and no one's coming back. Humans have the capacity to know this. Dogs and horses, like maybe don't. They have some level of consciousness, but not quite to ours. And we cannot handle how truthful that your fact is. Because of that, then we'll make up something. We'll make up decorating your casket, funeral pyres, having a job. Oh, well, he has a PhD. Well, she's a doctor. Oh, well, he's this. Well, she's that. Oh, well, did you know that he works at Facebook? Well, he works at. Okay. And then, so that's your culture. And then based on how closely you stick to the rules of that culture, that gives you self-esteem. So these two things are our way to transcend the fact that we're going to die and there's nothing beyond it. And so this is why when I was studying cosmology with deterministic behavior, with terror management theory, I mean, in 34 years, I haven't been reading since I was 0, but in like 30 years of reading, I haven't come across material that has broken me down this much that I can't find my way around. And like I said at the top, this is quite new to me. I'm only about 3 months into like really studying this material. I haven't concluded stuff. Maybe this is stuff that we can address later on, or if you guys want to talk about it later on with me, whatever. I'm just kind of looking for an audience to kind of like discuss these things with at some point. It doesn't matter when, if it's on here or somewhere else, but God. I want to be able to discuss these things with people because I can't unsee it now. I can't. And one thing I'd recommend is this. There's a lot of information that I just threw at you guys. If you have an answer right now, I promise you, you do not have an answer yet. And one of the things about this in teaching is that you really have to sit in it and not just be like, oh yeah, you know what, we're going to die. I know that. It's not that. You have to, as Socrates said, you have to practice dying. And you have to sit there. And I noticed, I think it was Mark or somebody said, when you're 50, you'll know about your mortality. Mark, I'm going to disagree with you there. I think you have to know death first. And unfortunately, this is not a brag. I know death now, probably better than a lot of people, unfortunately, for other reasons we can, you talk about. But this is why I kind of pick on people like Jazz and everybody who goes, you know what, I'm older. I'm like, just because you're 60 or you're 80 or you're 90, you're still only 90. And in the cosmic calendar, I have a huge argument against all these things. And actually I have a challenge. So here's my issue with like presenting this argument, is that it sounds negative at the start. It sounds nihilistic. It sounds really downer, but that's not it. And my challenge to people, as I've been doing, is keep pushing at that envelope. I think there's a solution on the other end, and I've been starting to kind of come up with it myself, but I want to just kind of leave it here. So I know it's a bit nebulous and a bit abstract, but
the pushback I would have just a little bit would be, because I know how close you've been to death. I know this story, and I can confirm for sure. Like no one should ever have to live through something like that. But also, you can have those experiences at a young age and hit 50 and still have those thoughts and opinions about death. And I mean, it's, and I'm sure, like, I'm thinking of answers and I'm sure my answers are wrong, but this idea that if this is the knowledge that then for me, who gives a shit? Just focus on now, focus on today, and let the chips fall where they may. Because if you can't control it, if it's predestined or whatever it is, then you're thinking about it, you harping on it is taking away from you living it. So that's my first sort of thought on it. But Jeb, what are you thinking, rather?
Yeah, I mean, kind of the subtext to that is that life is meaningless, right? That there's no meaning to life. And I think that you kind of have to make your own meaning, right? Like maybe just, being a positive person is meaning enough to make life meaningful. But yeah, I mean, you talk about your own death, eventually the whole goddamn universe is going to die, right? The heat death of the universe. Ultimately, nothing lasts forever. And yeah, it's hard to wrap your head around that. But yeah, I'd say just try to find meaning where you can.
I mean, I would also, if that's something you want an idea bounced off of, Jake, join our Discord. Links in the description, by the way, guys.
Sure.
And you could throw
I've
ideas.
Never done
like
Discord.
That. Yeah,
where you can chat with everybody.
It's basically just a chat room of folks that think about shit like that. I mean, a lot of our guys are thinking about UFOs, but this esoteric, philosophical sort of looking at yourself from a different point of view and how you fit into this, all this stuff kind of ties into the UAP UFO.
Well, yeah,
world.
Consciousness is a big part of these discussions.
Big
that kind of gets to the heart of all this.
And I'm trying to think who we can maybe bring you back with. That would be a good conversation to have. Who'd be great? Sean Webb. Sean Webb would be amazing. He does the mind hacking happiness TikTok. He's like, this guy knows consciousness and is a philosophical genius. And I'm sure there's a couple of other people, if I think about it for a little bit, that we can have this philosophical roundtable and throw this idea around and see where it leads. I think it's a fun conversation, man. I love it. I love thinking about stuff like that. But I think at the end of it, you can think about it till you're dead.
You're insane if you think about it too
dead,
much.
like until that 35 turns to 85 and all of a sudden you're like, what the hell? I don't know any more than I did when I was 35 on this question, and I don't think, I mean, I hope at the end there's an answer of some kind, I heard, I think some actually on that one time I was abducted, somebody had said there was a theory put out there that the reason why people see a light at the end of the tunnel when they die, or they see a light, is because that's the birth canal that they're going into and coming out of. And the reason why they're crying when they come out is because all of the memories of their past is what is sparking the new life. I was like, that's wild, and of course you don't remember that because you don't remember anything from when you were newborn, right? So I was like, that's pretty. I kind of love that idea, But at the same time, I'm terrified because I don't know if I want to come out of the canal. That is in the, some canals that you come out of are not going to be fun canals. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? They could be just.
I'm curious, Jake. I'm curious if you've ever done meditation or have tried that. I think
Yeah,
that does help a lot of
meditation?
people to kind of quiet their minds and be at peace with their existence. I don't do it much myself, but I've always thought I should do more of it.
No, I have, and here's the thing: is me being in this headspace right now, I'm actually very much at peace with it. Like, I like it, and I think the wrong move we're doing is to try to not sit in it. I like sitting in it now because I am just coldly facing the truth. I'm not allowed to make up anything if it can't be proven. My answer is I don't know. I've actually removed my own opinion. I don't have an opinion anymore. I just approach things on like a first principles and like a scientific approach with the scientific method. And what I'm noticing is that I think we can get a solution to this. You just have to keep hammering at that. I'm actually writing about it now, but there's a solution to this. And I think the more that we think about it, like really think about it, means like, and this is like one of the emphasis of this like material is like, you can't right away offer a thing. Like, you need to go away from us talking and go sit there, and like after several months or years, you might finally like reflect on it from enough vantage points to be like, oh, now I finally have even like one opinion on this. And Dr. Sheldon Solomon mentions like, you'll reach a point where you are then removed from society, and it is a scary place to be. And that's what I hit maybe a couple of weeks ago. I found myself like removed from society. I'm like, oh my God, it's a strange place, but I like being here. It's almost meditative because I am like pounding at the door to try to find a solution. And I think there's a solution.
Well, as long as it doesn't lead to a road of loneliness and isolation, I think you're good. That would be my, and I don't know if I'm even getting that wrong. I think there are moments where you can embrace the loneliness and the isolation. I'm not saying those things are not valuable, but I just, you don't want to end up being Ted Kaczynski, because like you read his manifesto and you're like, wow, about 95% of this makes sense. But if
95% of that made sense, I've never read it. But isn't that the 95% that we should make 100%? If the 5% that I'm assuming is the crazy part, I don't want to do that part.
Of course.
But I don't mind the loneliness either. It's like, I just want to be right and say the truth, whatever that is. Even if I like disagree with it, but it's not, my opinion doesn't matter at that point. That's why like the determinism part really works in nicely with the cosmology and the terror management theory. And one thing that I would say is that if you keep pounding at this door, you will get to a solution, I believe, where rape is not acceptable, war is not acceptable, stealing and crime, like these things that we do regularly, and we don't have a guilt, what's that called, survivor's guilt about. We should all be having massive survivor's guilt, but we don't, and we should be. These like bad things are unacceptable, and I think we can reach a society where, if I could convince people of like one thing, it's that we are a species in our adolescence. That's all I've been seeing from all of my research. We're a species in our adolescence. We're not yet Kardashev type 1 as a civilization. We are severely lacking. And I think we can reach a place, if you keep pounding at this door and we don't make up an answer for anything, where there is really no more suffering. And I think we could even, I won't say this last part, but okay, yeah, that's it.
Why won't you say the last part?
Because it's going to make me sound crazy, so I'll hold off.
No, I don't. I mean, look, I don't think you sound crazy.
Benjamin Franklin said only two things are sure in life: death and taxes. I think there's a way to transcend both. Yeah, I'm like working on a way to. I think I've kind of found a way to beat both.
Death and taxes.
Yeah, tell me about
death
the taxes, because that's coming up in a month or two.
Yeah,
subscription living. Just like you have Netflix, subscription living. The way we're living now is still like hunter-gatherer wanderers. It doesn't make sense how we're living now. If you want to find a new apartment, it is no different than you roaming around the savannah of Africa. I know it seems like you're not, but you are.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. I think there needs to be subscription living, which we can talk about some other day. I already hear the music coming on.
Hey, you know this award show move.
Yeah.
Well, listen, man. No, listen. I think this is a good conversation that we could pin and,
Sure. Yeah,
and
yeah.
get some other great minds in here and just to go for it. You know, I think that'd be a great 2 hours. Spending of our time. That'd be a lot of fun. Rather,
And I'm
did you
new
have
to
any
these
closing
comments.
thoughts?
Thanks. Thanks to everyone for saying nice things. You guys are really sweet.
Yeah, no, I love the deep conversation here at the end. I'd love to dive in more on these topics. They are fascinating.
Yeah, for sure, dude. Well, listen, we got to get out of here. Jake, thank you so much for coming aboard, man.
Thanks for having me, everyone. Thank you, Louis.
And being the guy who doesn't know anything, because I think that perspective is also important, you know, because there's going to be a lot of people who don't know about stuff like this. And I'm always fascinated by what are their questions, you know, the folks who aren't into this topic.
If you need an empty head, I'm here for you.
You're very valuable, empty head. I always appreciate it. Jake, I'll see you soon, brother. I love you.
See you soon, brother. Love you too.
Peace.
See you, Rather.
See you, Jake.
Rather, what do you got coming up this week?
Still slowly working on my Bayesian logic and how that applies to our odds of aliens. And having a busy week, but I hope to get that out this weekend here.
Right on. Well, listen, everyone out there, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Before we get out of here, I want to say thank you to everyone who donated super chats. Truly appreciate it. Christina Gomez, John Russell, Rebecca Baines, who's got a crush on Rather, the Black Vault. You guys absolutely came strong. Where did those? Why are they not starred anymore? Am I missing them? Did I not star them? What happened? Anyway, you guys know who you are. I truly appreciate it. What else was I going to say? Oh, check out if you guys want to check out our Discord or check out G West. Thank you. Or check out any of the links that we have below. We've got links for Rather, we got links for Jake, we got links for Jazz, we got links for everybody in the description below. So please go check it out. I want to say thank you to DOS Tapes. They provide all the tunes. Show will be available on iTunes shortly, so check it out. Download, leave us a rate and review. It goes a long way. Thank you to everyone who donated to the show. And if you can't donate, don't sweat it. There's no paywall here. All of our content is free. So enjoy at your leisure. We truly appreciate you guys. But do leave us a like, share the show, subscribe. We're only a few away from 9K. We may have hit it during the show. Who knows? I haven't looked yet, but we'll get there soon. And I appreciate every single last one of you guys. Nothing but love out there. And then last but not least, want to say thank you to KGRADB who put all of our shows up on their website. So thank you guys over there. And other than that, thank you for coming aboard, getting weird with us here on another episode of the Unidentified Celebrity Review, your home for credible news, reviews, and commentary on everything UAP and UFO. My name is Luis Jimenez. Until next time, you guys, stay safe out there. We'll see you on Friday. Love you to death. Peace. I'm going to tell y'all right now, all of these wonderful people would not be here without Patreon supporters like you. If you enjoy credible news, reviews, and commentary on UFOs and UAPs 5 days a week, you want to support this show. What's your name? Marty. Marty, look how easy this is, Marty. Pick up your phone. Boom, you're a Patreon member. I mean, look, it's so easy. You just click the link, which is right here. Just for $1 a month, you can support this show. Just fill out the information and pledge what's comfortable for you. It could be $1, $5, $10, or who knows. Just support.